Welcome everyone to my 5 top tips for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. And I'm Lauren Lanker and I blog over at The Thinking Closet, where I'm on a not so secret mission to help you break down the walls that stand between you and your creativity, and today, that whatever stands between you and using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. So greetings to everyone joining us. Hooray, thank you for the heart love already. And I'm so happy that you're here today. I actually just last week painted not 1, not 2, not 3, but 7 different furniture pieces with chalk paint. So this is all fresh on the brain and I'm really excited to chat with you all. Oh, thank you so much, Lil. These are actually from Bangladesh. A friend of ours gave them to me. So yeah, and actually all the pieces last week bumped up my chalk paint count from, I had only done 1 piece of furniture before that, and now I have done 8. So I'm really excited about it, and that should just be evidence to those of you who are on the fence that anyone can do this. It's really not as scary as it sounds. And I would love to just have a quick little question that I ask you all joining. I'm curious how many pieces you all have transformed using the chalk paint. And feel free to put your first name so I can greet you by your first name. But I'm curious if you've done 0 or if you've done a few. Oh, okay, Jillian, yes, be safe while you're on the road. And yeah, just because we're gonna have a lot of shared knowledge here on this scope, I'd love for this to be a conversation. And if any of my tips trigger some ideas of your own, I would love for you to share them as long as you're not driving. So have any of you worked with chalk paint before? And those of you who may have never heard of this before, chalk paint is not chalkboard paint. A lot of people think that when they first hear about it, but it's something quite magical indeed. So we'll be talking in depth about what exactly it does and why it's so awesome. So a little bit, Jenny, welcome. Bought some chalk paint but haven't used it. Oh, this is gonna be perfect for you, Jenny. Oh, hey, Jill. So happy to have you here. Never tried it. Okay, this is so great. I have a hunch that after our little chat today, you're gonna be like grabbing all the chalk paint you can and just transforming everything, because it really is that amazing. I am a huge fan. And actually, I wanted to share something that I wrote when I first discovered chalk paint last fall, and it's from my beginner's guide to chalk paint that I wrote on my blog, which you can actually find after this scope at thinkingcloset.com/chalk paint. And I identified something called the 5 stages of chalk paint. And just like there are 5 stages of grief. Hey, Regan. All right, so the 5 stages, oh, lost my page. Hang in there, hang on, hang on. Yes, I do hope you do read it. And I actually combined, I wrote 2 beginner's guides that the first one is all on like a smooth finish, and the second one that I just wrote after doing our table and chairs was on distressed finish. So, as you listen to these 5 stages of Annie Sloan chalk paint, I want you to think what stage you are at right now, okay? So the first stage, oh, thank you for writing that out, thinkingcloset.com/chalk paint. So the first stage is intrigue. A paint that requires no stripping, sanding, or priming? Tell me more. So maybe some of you are at the intrigue stage. What? I don't have to spend hours sanding my piece before I start. I can just paint it atop varnish. Tell me more. That's stage 1. Stage number 2, which some of you might be at, is intimidation. And I lived at this stage for a very long time. That stage is, oh wait, I have to seal it with wax, then buff it? That sounds scary. I don't think I'm ready for this. So some of you might be showing hearts if you are at stage number 2, intimidation. Then comes, and I see some people that are intimidated. Okay, wait, there's more stages. You're not gonna live there forever. Raising your hand, Jenny. Stage number 3, provocation. Ugh, I'm so sick and tired of seeing all the pretty Annie Sloan chalk paint projects blowing up my Pinterest stream. It is time to bite the bullet and see if this paint can live up to the hype. So some of you might be provoked and be like, ugh, I just gotta figure this out because I'm tired of seeing it. I want to join the club. Stage number 4, I gotta show you my visual, disbelief. This is once you actually dive in and you say, wait a minute, am I missing something? When's it gonna get really complicated? Because it doesn't. And then stage number 5, which is the best stage, is elation. And that's when you say, I did it. Ain't she a beaut? I cannot believe it took me so long to try it. And at least I have practically the entire quart of paint left over. So on to the next painting project. Yes, Robin says it really is amazing. Oh, hey, Salvage sis. So tell me right now, what stage of Annie Sloan are you at? What stage of chalk paint? Are you intrigued by it? Are you intimidated by it? Are you provoked and you're like ready to dive in? Are you in disbelief? Are you in the midst of a project and you're like, can it really be this awesome? Or are you elated and you're like, I love Annie Sloan, singing all day long. A few 5s, a few 2s stuck at the intimidation phase. Oh, hey, Megan. Another 5, a provoked, pretty prairie. Stage 3, oh, that's awesome. So you're getting ready to dig in as well. Another stage 3, good. Well, friends, hey, I hope that by the end of this, you will all be provoked to give it a go. And then pretty soon you'll be at disbelief at how easy it is and elation. That's where I'm at, if you couldn't tell. I love this paint. Everything in my home has been attacked. That's amazing, Robin. I am on my way as well. This buffet behind me might have to be our next victim, because we just did these fabulous chairs and table, which I'll show you all a little bit later in our chat. And it's really transformed our space and it's just made it so much brighter, and I'm in love. So, as I said, this is gonna be a convo together. I'm glad that oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that there's so many people here that are both intimidated, because you're gonna have a lot of friends as well who are in stage 5 of elation, and we're gonna hopefully get you to that point of being willing to try it. So those of you who have tips to share, don't hold back. I love Periscope because of this interaction. So if you're like, ooh, should I say something or should I not? Say it. And hearts are a great way to say like, ooh, this is something that's interesting, or I really am enjoying what you're saying, or I agree with you. So feel free to get your trigger finger ready. Robinson, kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, doors, dressers. Man, girl, you're gonna be our resident expert. That's amazing. And I'm curious, you'll have to share which colors you've tried. So far, I've just tried the Provence, which is a really pretty kind of teal. And I'll show you our coffee station later. And then Paris Gray, which is this lovely light, kind of a cool gray. Hello, Underhacker. Tell me your name so I can greet you by your name. Okay, friends, time to dig in to my 5 top tips for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. Oh, I don't know what that is, so we're gonna move along. Okay, and I'm Lauren, and welcome to those of you just joining in. I see we have a lot of new friends. Thanks to those of you who might have shared this scope. If you think you have friends on Periscope or on Twitter who might enjoy learning these 5 tips, you can swipe left to right on an iOS or swipe up on an Android and hit the share button. And I would so appreciate bringing more friends to the party. Robin has used old ochre, old white, graphite, Paris Gray, French linen, duck egg, cocoa. Oh my goodness, you really are an expert. Those sound like beautiful colors. I mean, they all are. The color palette is incredible, based on sort of the French furniture. Okay, totally wanting to paint my table and chairs. I know, you're gonna get hooked. That's where I'm at. And even my husband, he got to actually try it this time, and he was like, wow, this really is quite easy. It goes such a long way. He couldn't believe, like, as he was painting, I was like, don't dip it back in, keep going. It's like the paint that never ends. Do it, do it. Okay, friends, let's dive in, shall we? if you're ready for me to dig into these tips, type the word brush. So I know you're ready to dig in. I have a super old coffee table that needs a facelift. This will be perfect. Just starting on a couple of cabinets. Oh, great! Brush, 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 brush. Hooray! Oh, look at all these friends. Brush, 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 brush. Thanks for the feedback. I love it. Now, tip number 1. And this is something that I use with all painting projects, if we're honest. Jen wants to paint this old knotty pine coffee table. Good. Okay, project this weekend. Let's dig in to my tip number 1, which is to take the time to prep your piece. Now, the wonderful thing about Annie Sloan is that it actually requires very little prep compared to other paints like latex. So, for instance, when we repainted some of our bedroom furniture before we discovered chalk paint, we had to do a lot of sanding, we had to use a special primer, and you can skip those steps with chalk paint. You can skip those steps, which is fantastic. It saves you tons of time and money buying primer. But there are a few other things that I highly recommend you do to prep your piece. And some of those things are removing removable things like drawers and hardware. Just get them out of the way for now. Do run your hand across the furniture, and if you see any rough patches, then you can take some kind of fine grit sandpaper to that, maybe like about 200, and just smooth it out. If you see any little sticky or gunky spots, you're going to want to get rid of that with soap and water or Goo Gone, one of my favorite products. If you have any holes that you don't want there, you can fill them with wood glue. And I always do a once over with warm soapy water. And this is very important, clearly Smitten agrees, because even if a furniture piece looks really clean, it's not. It has like the oils and greases from hands all over it. Robin, our expert, baby wipes work great. Oh, that'd be super easy. Yes, just some kind of mild soap, even just warm water all over it. And you can get off all that grease so the paint has like a clean surface to stick to. Yes, I am on Pinterest. My handle for pretty much all social media is Thinking Closet. No, I don't sell chalk paint, but you can go onto the Unfolded website to find your local stockist, and you can figure out, how to get a hold of some locally. And actually, a lot of stockists around the country will ship to you. So don't think like, oh my goodness, my nearest stockist is 100 miles away, I can't use this paint. That's not true. So just go to the unfolded.com website and you can find your local stockist. So back to prepping, just do a quick once over with soapy water, and then if you do, just do another once over with clean water to get rid of the residue, let it fully dry, and then you're ready to go. So that's my first tip, to take the time to do the prep. Yes, Emily, I'm going to show you guys at the very end. You got to stick with me to the very end. Lowe's. Oh, really? I didn't know that they started selling chalk paint. Annie Sloan brand? That's great. Yay, Emily. And a few of you might be curious. I get this question a lot on the blog. They're like, wait a minute, are you 100% sure that I don't have to sand? And from what I've read, and those of you who've used it can pipe in going to Lowe's. Yeah, give them a call first just to make sure your Lowe's has it. But what I've read is that you really only need to sand if it's like a super glossy finish or if it's laminate. So for instance, a lot of people have had success using chalk paint on IKEA laminate. So that's going to be another thing we try soon, but they do recommend for those really glossy pieces doing just a little bit of gentle sanding. Otherwise, you can actually paint right atop varnish without sanding. Oh, okay. So it's not Annie Sloan there. Then check your local stockist, because that'll be the best way to get a hold of this stuff. I can't speak to the others. You can always use self-etching primer. Oh, interesting. Never heard of it. Tell us more about that. Another thing I will say, if you're using untreated wood, I've read because the tannins from the wood can rise up and sort of bleed through the paint, you're going to want to just seal that untreated wood with just like a thin coat of shellac, and then you can paint right atop that. So those are the only two circumstances that I've heard of where you're going to want to do any additional prep beyond sort of the cleaning and getting rid of all the gunk in the drawers. So there you have it. That's my first tip. Oh, I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Hallstrom home. And feel free, if I know there's a lot of you in this chat, which is so wonderful to see. Thank you, friends. And feel free to like put a little dash with your first name at the end so I can call you by your first name. So much more personal. So, oh, thank you, August. Oh, Sarah is your name. I was going to say August is a cool name. Sarah's cool too. Jillian, no, it adheres right atop the shellac. Aw, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that kind comment. So we're moving on to tip number 2 of my top tips for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. Monica, hello. That unknown guy says self-etching primer is good for automotive work. It's used over body filler, but works well on wood. Wow, that's fantastic. You sound like quite the DIYer. That's neat. I'm guessing you've done a lot of automotive work. Okay, friends, number 2. Here's one that I learned from Shauna from Perfectly Imperfect. She is a great person whose blog you should check out if you're looking for more great tips on using chalk paint, because she is someone that I learned a lot from when I was first starting. I watched her YouTubes. Something that she says is that you can actually work straight from the can when you're painting. I mean, these quartz are like easy to grip. This paint is like precious gold, so I don't like to like pour it into another container and then waste some of it when you have to pour it back in, and it creates more mess. So she says you can work straight from the can, just like dipping your brush in, but the big tip that she recommends that I'm going to pass on to you is to cap it in between dips, which when I told my husband that, I'm like, don't forget to cap it. He was like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. Robin agrees. Okay, good. But you do want to cap it because this paint dries very quickly. It's part of the magic, part of the gold, as Rhonda said. And you don't want that sort of film to form on the top of in the top of your quart. So I just uncap it, take a dip, throw the cap back on, and do some painting. And like I said, this goes such a long way. I painted, as I shared, 6 chairs and 1 table with 2 coats, and I'm only halfway through this quart. So a lot of people scoff at how expensive it is. So this might cost you like $34, give or take a little bit, depending on your stockist. But this is gonna last you so much. It's gonna take you so much further than something like latex that's more liquidy, because you can get so much out of it. Holy cow, that's a lot of furniture. It does go a long way. And keep in mind, you're skipping the priming step. You're skipping that extra cost of the primer. So I know that people get thrown off by how expensive it is, but I really think it's worth it. Yes, Katie agrees. It is worth it. Love Annie Sloan. Yeah, so I did 7 pieces, have this much left. I'll probably get another 7 out of it. So that's my plan. And you can actually water this down. If it starts to get too thick on you, you can actually dip your paint in some water before you dip it right in. Is there a difference between the wax and the paint brushes? Oh, thanks for saying your name, Tina. Let me answer that one. Seriously, a 1-coat paint. Yeah, so a lot of people even say like you can just do it in 1 coat and let that be it. And I think if you're going for a more distressed, aged look, Jillian, you could do 1 coat. And we kind of did that on our chairs, but with the table, I wanted more coverage. So 2 coats and it was done. And the 2nd coat, I added some water to it to kind of make it run a little bit more smoothly. And it's, you know, it's a water-based paint, so it works perfectly if you want to water it down. Does it go on rustic looking or solid? Okay, another great question. So I'm going to show you, I've done both. I've done sort of a more smooth modern finish, and I've done the sort of more rustic finish, which I'll give you guys a closer look at later. And it works well for both. I think after doing the distressed aged look, I really saw that this is what this paint was made to do. So it sort of opened up a whole new world of like, wow, this just distresses and ages so well. I think that's where it really shines. But if you do want a smooth finish, you can still achieve it. And I'll show you how I did that. And then Tina's question about the brushes. What does the furniture feel like after it's dried? Okay, let me get to that one in a second. And if I forget, Lil, tell me. But Tina's question's about the brushes. So for the smooth finish, I actually just used this Purdy XL Cub brush, and I just got it at my local Home Depot. A whole new world. Oh, don't tempt me. You know how I love the music. Yeah, I just got this Purdy brush. It's really soft, really smooth, and this was great for a smooth finish. And then I decided I wanted to try Annie Sloan's brush. They have these great natural bristle brushes, and it's very dense. Thin it with water, pour it in the sprayer, spray it if you want, spray it right on. Oh wow, that's a great tip. I'm gonna have to try that. So this one, I mean, it's really durable. You can like mash it into the corners of your piece. See if I can pull in a chair. You can really go crazy with it. This is great for the distressed, textured look. And that's what we did on these chairs. You can kind of, I painted actually figure eights, all different directions, because I didn't want it to look smooth. And I think these natural bristle brushes are great for that. Yes, you do, girl. And again, these are a little bit pricier. I forget how much, but I think I'll share later how to take care of these brushes. I think if you take care of it, it will last you forever. Is it made specifically to cover furniture? That's, I believe, what Annie Sloan created it for, but it can also stick to plastic, to metal, pretty much any surface you can imagine. So people use it for a lot of like home decor. I've actually used it, I forgot to mention this, I've used it on the top of mason jar lids, and it stuck right to it. It stuck right to it. Then the wax brush, which we'll talk about waxing in a moment. I've only used the Annie Sloan wax brush, and yes, fabric too. That's right. Thanks for sharing that. It does stick to fabric. You've actually used it on fabric. Pam, that is so cool. You'll have to tell us. I've heard that it works. Yes, it works for fabric. I've never tried it. Just do a little Google action after this. Or if any of you have a tutorial on how to use Annie Sloan on fabric, tell us. So this is the wax brush that I've used. Again, I think it's a really worthy investment, but you don't need to use this. You can actually just use a rag to apply the wax. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but I wanted to just answer your question about the brushes. And leather. What can't it do? I don't know. And then I think, Lil, you had asked what the finish is, and it's sort of a chalky finish, true to the name, chalk paint, and kind of a matte chalky finish, but I'll share in a moment how to sort of get a glossier finish once you add the wax. So, wow, thanks for all these hearts. This has been a great conversation with great questions. And so far we've talked about my top 5 tips. First one being to really take the time to prep your piece. And the second being that you can work straight from the can, just cap it in between, and also don't be afraid to water it down a little bit. I actually just take like a bucket like this and dip it in some water before the paint if I want to thin it out a little. Oh, thank you. Oh, we have a question for Rhonda. Did you save your leather chair? Oh, she did a leather chair scope? Tell us. Tell us where to find it if you did save it, because I'd love to see that. We can go scope hop after this. Yes, it's on Facebook. So if we just look up Hallstrom Home on Facebook, will we find it, Rhonda? We'll have to go look. Okay, now moving along, my dear friends, to my third tip for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. Oh, Farmhouse Fair. Okay, look it up, friends, on the Facebook, Farmhouse Fair, after this. Third tip is related to distressing. So there are 2 schools of thought, and I'll be curious, those of you who've used Annie Sloan to distress, what you think. Annie Sloan herself will say to actually do a coat of wax first, then distress, then do another coat of wax. And I actually tried both methods. I did the pre-wax, then distress on the table, and then I did the distress first, then wax on the chairs. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment, Lil. And I will say that I much preferred for distressing to distress first, then wax. And here's why. Annie Sloan says you'll actually create a lot more dust if you do it the way I did it and preferred, which is true. And I did distress indoors, which sounds crazy, but we're in Orlando, Florida, folks. It is too darn hot to be outside right now. So I just laid down butcher paper on the floor. We covered our space, so all the dust fell on there for the most part. And okay, room with a view. I think it's Pam, distresses first as well. But I found to distress first was way easier, way less effort than once I had waxed it. Because when you wax, it starts to seal the paint. It gets quite hard within 24 hours. And so I found that it was so much more work to distress the table once it had sealed. And I was like, man, this is taking me probably double the time than it took me when I just painted, let the paint dry couple hours, then I went in with my sandpaper and sanded. So my opinion, my personal opinion, is that I enjoyed distressing first before waxing. Sand your tiles first. I love that we're answering questions. Thank you everyone for sharing your expertise, especially about tile, because I haven't tried that yet. And if you do sand, don't use like an electric sander. This is all done by, with hand. Even if you like wrap it around a sanding block or use like a sandpaper holder with a handle, that's what I used. And I linked to a lot of my supplies in my post, which you can find these at thinkingcloset.com/chalkpaint. And do it all by hand. Feel it. Feel it, feel it. If you're trying to distress, okay, yes. And I love that Robin just mentioned that, thank you. So if you want a little bit more control over the distressing, I've heard that you can sand with like moisture. So instead of sanding with actual sandpaper, you could put a little bit of, moisten a little bit of a rag or Robin, I'm curious what you've used, and just run it across the edges, and it'll just lift the paint right off because it's water-based. So if you want a little bit more control over the distressing, you can try the water method first, and that's something you'll want to do before waxing once it seals. Oh, you just get your sanding block wet. Oh, great tip. I missed that in the first comment. I'm gonna have to try that next time. That probably would have helped. Madame Butterfly Chalky Paints did this go. Okay, so many great resources in this mix. And also, this is just an aside, but something I shared in my posts. If you're curious about like what to distress, there's actually a little bit of rhyme or reason. You want to distress the parts that would actually get distressed in real life, like edges, decorative elements, things that are raised, places where there's a lot of wear and tear. So you'll want to just think sort of logically of like, if this was a piece that was like in a house with a lot of toddlers going crazy, like what would naturally get distressed? I see a lot of hearts that agree with me. And I so very much enjoy the distressing process, actually a little too much. And I'll show you, when I show you our tabletop, like went crazy on the distressing because it was so much fun. And it really felt like there was an art to it, and I got in the zone, the distressing zone. Okay, well, this has been great so far, and any of you just joining in, welcome. We are through 3 out of my 5 top tips for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. Beginner, veteran, you're welcome, all of you. And I love just seeing the conversation in the chat here because we have a lot of experts in our midst and a lot of people with great questions. Robin's like done her whole house. So, and I'm Lauren, and I blog over at The Thinking Closet, and I am obsessed with chalk paint. So we're gonna move right along to my 4th tip, and this involves the step that intimidates people the most, waxing. So we're gonna talk about this. Oh, yay, greetings to your sweet 3-month-old. I'm glad they're enjoying this. Maybe they're a future chalk painter. Great, thanks for being so helpful, everyone. So, waxing. This freaked me out a lot. I got really intimidated, but once I actually did it, I realized it was not that bad. it actually was quite easy. And I link to 2 videos in my both my posts that I've written that are great resources just to demonstrate how this looks. But my tip for waxing is that less is more. And it's going to be hard. You're going to want to be like, oh, I just got to get this covered with wax so we can really seal it. But that's going to be the death of you if you do. So you're just going to want to dip like the very tip of your brush, or if you're using a rag, just get a little bit on the rag. And you're going to want to work in small sections. Like, so if you're on a chair, like you would work on just like one side of the chair. If you're on a table, like I just worked, I think in ninths on the table. You're going to want to turn on a lot of light. So if you're not working in the day, just bring a lot of lights near your workspace so that you can see where the wax is going. Because there were a lot of times I thought like, oh, it seems like there's nothing on my brush as I'm rubbing hard into the surface. But when I kind of tilted my angle, I could see there was a thin layer of wax getting put down. And that's what you want with wax. You can always add more, but it's very hard if you kind of let the wax dry when there's still a lot of residue on there. It's going to be a lot harder to get it off. And so here's sort of the method that I've used. You're going to like massage it in. It doesn't matter like the direction you go in, but if you want it to sort of end with a smooth finish, just make sure the last pass that you do is with the grain. So I'll go like crazy. I actually push pretty hard because you want it to get down into all the grooves. Thanks for the hearts. And then for my last pass, I go straight across. Then you're going to want to grab a lint-free cloth. And I just use these. My husband's a doctor. These come with like medical kits. They're like lint-free rags that we just have. And you're going to use the rag and you're going to literally like wipe off with a few swipes the excess. And you're going to be thinking like, wait, why am I taking this off? But you're really just getting off any of the extra. You can even gently rub your hand across it just to make sure it's smooth. If it's tacky at all, that means there's still too much wax left behind, and you're going to want to go back over it and get it up. And you'll quickly see, like, oh, I have an example of a waxed rag. Like, you'll see here's a spot where the wax started to build up, so I stopped using that spot to clean it off. You want to go to a fresh spot and just make sure you're taking off that wax. So less is more with the wax. And I didn't share this in my epically long post, but I ended up making my very own mistake of putting on too much. And I ended up sanding it off because I hated it, because it was too tacky. And I know, like, even if a lint-free rag often does have lint on it, and I've heard people say like, oh, you can use t-shirts with the seams cut out. And I did that a couple times and I kept seeing little hairs and it really bugged me. So make sure, I've heard shop rags are great. The rags that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot that are just sort of cut up small pieces. And that's another great reason to have the light on, because if you start to see like little hairs and lint in your wax, it's not lint free. So these worked really well for me. I think they're just like medical rags or cloths. And if anybody, blue shop rags are the best. Robin agrees. So, and I'm guessing, can you get blue shop rags at like Home Depot or Lowe's? Probably can order them online, and just have a lot of them because you're going to go through several. Oh, the paper towel kind. Oh, great. So those are disposable. That's a great idea. And I'm going to have to invest in some of those. Costco, says Smashley. Great to see you, Smashley. Oh, and let me share this analogy that Annie Sloan shared, and I think it fits so well when understanding waxing and how it works. Is she described it to like putting on lotion. So when you put some lotion on your hands, you rub it in, right? You're trying to get it to go soak into your skin. Home Depot has them too. Thank you, Red Eye Baker. And then you don't want to go around the rest of your day with like a little bit of a greasy film on your hands. You want to like take off that just excess. You're not taking off all of it because you massaged it into your hands, but just the excess is what you get rid of. So I thought that fit really well. And you'll find that like once you're done with your section, you're done. Just move on to the next section, kind of work methodically through. And then a lot of people recommend letting that wax harden for 24 hours before you apply a second coat of wax. And you don't have to always do 2 coats, and I'll be curious to hear what you all do at home. I ended up doing, you know, 2 for things that are going to get a lot of wear and tear, or even 3. So I've done like 2 for the tabletop, and I plan on doing a 3rd one because that's, you know, we're going to probably have spills and messes. And everyone has said that like you can use wax to seal tabletops. One woman shared her story. She's like, I have toddlers, and like our waxed Annie Sloan tabletop has like stood the test of time. She said that if it does start to show areas of wear, she'll just redo 1 coat of wax on the top once a year, and it might take you like 30 minutes to do, so it's definitely worth it. And then it does take 30 full days to cure. You can still use it in those 30 days, just use it gently. 1 coat unless it is a tabletop. Oh great, you've even done your hardwood floors. That's awesome. And then I'm guessing, tell us how you sealed those, with wax, or did you seal them with something else? And yeah, so a lot of people say that 1 is enough for things that aren't going to get a lot of wear and tear. And if it's something like that's going up on the wall that nobody's going to touch at all, you don't even have to seal it. It just sort of like, if you did touch something, she did wax it. That's great. So it hardens enough to last on floors. So you think of it, it comes out of this can as like Crisco soft, but within 24 hours it gets hard, hard, hard. Yes, I did my kitchen table too, and I love it. That's great. So I had read, I was a little bit concerned. I thought like, will this be durable enough for a table? Everybody agreed, and now I do too, that it is. It gets very strong and cures into the wood. So I use French linen paint with dark wax. Ooh, that sounds gorgeous. Junction Alley loves Annie Sloan as well. Welcome to the party. This is like Annie Sloan fan club right here. Does the wax protect with dishes and hot food? Poly can show steam. Yes, I mean, just like any kind of sealant, you're not gonna, if you have like a glass of water, you know, just sitting right on the tabletop and you leave it for 30 minutes, you might see a ring. I've heard that like once you clean it up, that oftentimes the ring will vanish. So you don't want, it's not like, it can't withstand everything, but it's quite durable, just as durable, if not more, than poly. Yeah, Rhonda, tell us where we can find all these pictures. On your Facebook, on Instagram? Love to know. Sounds like you've done so much with it. That's really inspiring. Yes, great. Okay, and I think that covers waxing. I know that's really intimidating. I haven't tried the dark wax yet. I do have this cute little sample. Is this not adorable? I just like thought it was, I actually put it right next to our little cat because it seemed like it fit like the scale of like this to me is this to my cat, and I just thought it was hilarious. And no, actually things aren't meant to go outside. It's not like weatherproof. Yes, near the beginning of my Instagram post, Hallstrom Home. Check her out on Instagram. So, and I know Rhonda says she's used the dark wax on her floor. This is like the next level up. I think this will be the next thing I try. So this will really give it that like antiqued, aged look, and actually darken things, bring out a lot of the distressing that you do. I decided just to use the clear wax because I thought this was going to be a little too warm with like the cool Paris gray on our table and chairs, but I'm going to be brave. Try this soon. Junction Alley says it's awesome. You can check out my Instagram page. Great, thank you, Robin. I will, since you've done your whole home sweet farm, homes_sweet_farm with chalk paint. Yes, Red Eye Baker. I read about this, that it is a-okay to use for, people use it for cribs, for beds. There's a few, like, they say to let it really fully cure before you use it with an actual child, but it's definitely safe to use. Yes, and that's a big tip I did read about, that if you are going to do dark wax, you're going to do clear wax first, and then this will be the very last coat you do. So, because actually the clear wax will actually lift the dark wax. So that's kind of a comfort. Like if you make a mistake, you can just put some clear wax over it and it will lift it right up. Robin agrees. And I actually watched a bunch of tutorials because I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? I didn't think it was right for my pieces, but I am gonna try it soon. And I've heard that like a little goes a long way with the soft wax. So I got this at one of our local stockists for 16 bucks, and I bet you this will like last me many, many a piece. So there you go for the waxes, folks. You can do it. Don't let that be the thing that holds you back. Just remember, less is more. Less is more. And you can always do, once it hardens, you can always do another coat. Clear is like a magic eraser on the dark. I think that's great. So, and here's another thing I've read. Let's say you're done and you've waxed it and you're like, I think I made a mistake. It's the wrong color for this space. You can just put chalk paint right over top of it because it sticks to pretty much anything. So there's a lot of freedom with this paint, freedom for mistakes. It's quite forgiving of mistakes. So it's actually like, if you're a perfectionist, this is perfect for you. And I am a perfectionist and I love it. See a lot of hearts agreeing. Great, okay friends, we are on to my last tip, which almost sounds like too easy to even be called a tip, but I'm all about taking care of the things that you're investing in. So if you're gonna invest in these awesome brushes, then my tip is to take the time to clean them out well, because they will last for the long haul. And here's how you clean these babies out. The actual paint brushes that you use can just be cleaned out with simple, probably warm water, even a little bit of soap if you need it. Preach! Thanks so much, sister. And so like clean them out. Don't let them get all clunky and junky. Take care of these brushes. Let them fully dry. With the wax brush, there's two different things I've tried. I'd love to hear our experts what they like. I recently tried Murphy's oil soap, and that worked super easily. So I think I'll be using that in the future. I literally just like poured some of it on my waxy tip and like worked it in the sink, kind of around all the edges. And you can even follow it up with a little bit of soap and water. But I found the Murphy's oil soap to be really efficient. Worked great in just a minute. Thank you. And then if it's really gunky for some reason, like maybe you accidentally let it harden without cleaning it, which I know you won't after watching this scope, but you can actually like let it sit in a cup of mineral spirits for like 5 to 10 minutes, take it out, clean it out, run some dish soap, water through it, and it should bring it back to normal. So Murphy's or regular lye soap works well. That's great. And I even saw on the YouTube, I watched a lot of YouTube videos just to see this in action. Like, let's say you start to get a lot of like flyaways coming out the sides. She said just get it wet. You can even put like a rubber band around this and let it hang this way for a little bit. And she's like, and when you take it off, it'll be good as new. So these sort of natural hair bristles are really great. They're gonna last you a long time. So my last tip is just to like, when you're done, you're gonna wanna like do a happy dance and tell all your friends, because you'll be in stage 5, elation of Annie Sloan, and you're just gonna wanna forget about cleanup. Don't do it. Take the time to take care of your sweet brushes, and that way you can do many, many more chalk paint projects to come. So, friends, those are my 5 tips. Let me do a quick recap in case any of you hopped in partway through. Robin's doing her dance for Annie Sloan. Oh, I'm so glad you guys were here. Because here's the thing, I was a little nervous. I'm like, I'm not an expert. I've done a table, 6 chairs, and another little table. Do I have anything to share? But that's the thing about Periscope, is I was hoping there'd be people who could jump in to answer questions I couldn't. And I wanted to demystify this paint. A lot of people think it takes like a genius to use it, and it doesn't. I was blown away with how easy it was to use. I found it easier than latex paint. That's what I used to paint all my furniture with. And I found the waxing easier than polyacrylic. And I used to swear by polyacrylic. And I think it still works for certain things, but now that I've done, oh, thanks Rhonda. Now that I've done chalk paint and wax by Annie Sloan, I'm Team Annie Sloan. Just so easy. So let's do a quick recap, shall we? My 5 top tips for using chalk paint by Annie Sloan. That's what's so great about Annie Sloan. You don't have to be an expert. Bam! Tweet that. Brilliant. Number 1, take the time to prep your piece. So we talked about taking off hardware, cleaning off the gunk, sanding the rough spots, doing a once over with soap to get rid of those fingerprints you can't see. Do it, because your paint will stick to the surface so much better. Number 2, work from the can. You'll save paint. As long as you just cap it in between, it'll be nice and easy. Oh, thank you. Appreciate all that love. I want to send you all hearts. Back at you. Number 3, I have to read backwards. I know you can see it forward. Distress before waxing. If you want to save energy. If you're like, I want a little bit less dust and I want to get a good workout, then wax first, then distress, wax again. But after having done both methods, I was like, why did I wax first? It was so hard and I'm sweating bullets. So do a little distressing first. And I have a whole 6,390 word post I wrote on distressing over on my blog, thinkingcloset.com/chalkpaint. So if you're like, tell me more about this distressing, that's where you can find it. And number 4, less is more. Less is more with the waxing. So don't slap it on there and go crazy because you think, oh, it'll help seal it. All it needs is a very thin coat of wax, and you're gonna rub it in and then rub it off and move along, and it'll be enough, trust me. And number 5, take the time to clean your brushes well. They will love you for it. You will love your wallet because you will have more money when you don't have to buy more brushes to replace the ones you ruined. And this is just another random quick tip I'll share that I like to do if I'm in the middle of a project and I'm like, oh, gotta go run to the gym, but I am gonna come right back and paint. I actually don't clean out my brushes then. I actually pop them into a Ziploc bag, put them in the fridge, and it keeps just fine. It keeps the moisture so that I can come back and jump right in. It might be a little bit thicker than I like, so I might dip it in some water, but that's a great way to sort of put the pause button on your project. Just put it in a Ziploc, put it in the fridge. Don't let your child mistake it for food. Make sure it's sealed and come back home and you can jump right in. Yes, totally. She's probably totally done that. Thumbs, thumbs, thumbs. People agree. That's another 6th tip you get from me. Okay, now I promised I would actually show you the pieces I've done. So feel free to ask questions as I show you. And I apologize, you're gonna get to see like a little bit of mess here. But that's part of Periscope. This is what we love about it, is that you get to see the real life, the real me. Okay, so I'm gonna take you off this little tripod. You can pop it in the freezer if it'll be a few days. Really? Oh my goodness. I'm a little bit of a procrastinator, so that's information I will use for sure. Okay, I'm gonna pop you around. So let me show you, you're gonna get to see my Periscope setup right here. Let me show you the table and chairs that we did. So this is some of the distressing. You can see this is sort of like a 2-tone distress, so we had some black paint under it that you can see, as well as just the bare wood came through. And we got it nice and rough, thank you. And we even did some aging, so like you can see we like roughed up the tabletop because we wanted it to look crazy. We actually did, thank you. We did some like fake wormholes. We just like banged a bunch of screws with hammer. We literally like had a like attack the table party and went crazy on it. It was really fun. Now these, don't worry, these ugly cushions are gonna go away. We're gonna reupholster them. Thank you. We're gonna probably get like a teal or a dark gray. So these are gonna go away. They're all ready to be reupholstered. And this is the newly done table. It was really dark and black before, and now it is nice and bright and gray. So kind of hard to see with all my mess, but there's our table and chairs. And there are 6 chairs. We just usually keep 4 here. And then let me show you the other piece that I did first. This is, oh yeah, sure, I'll show you my Periscope setup. This is the first piece I did, which I absolutely love. This is our hot drink station, which we did with Provence. And you know what, Junction Alley, I decided not to because I think it's gonna be too warm for the cool tone, but I considered it, and I might still do it. Yes, thank you, friends. I love this color. This is, I think Emily was asking about like if I did a smooth finish. This is what I did with a smooth finish. So very, very smooth, no distressing. And it went on really well, really easily. This was the first piece I did, so I kind of started small. And it was like a dark wood with some varnish on top, and it stuck right to it. I bought new knobs, and it stood up really well. We've had a lot of spills and things. Oh, thank you for the hearts. And I absolutely love it. It's really one of my favorite colors now. I want to paint all the things. Thank you. Yeah, this is Provence, and I have like 2/3 of my quart left, so I'll definitely do more projects with that paint. And here's my Periscope setup. Yes, you love Provence too. Okay, so here's, just if you're curious, this is actually a mount that we use in the car, so I've totally stolen it, and I just attach it right here. It kind of just locks in. You can adjust this to any angle. I prop it up on a crate because the angle's a little bit better, a little less double chin action. This is my little script. I started doing these little table tents because I can sometimes forget to say things. I don't always look at it, but I find that just typing it out really helps me. Very cool. How much paint did you use for the small table? So, okay, let me flip it back around. Love that you've prepared. Oh, I do value your time. Thank you. Aw, that means a lot to me. Oh, thank you. So much love. Whoa. I appreciate it. And I know a lot of you I haven't seen necessarily on my scopes before, so I appreciate you being here. And if you do want to follow me, if you're not already, feel free. I would be so honored to have you join. I actually, in addition to doing DIY and craft projects, I also do a little something called Monday night dance parties, which some of you in here I know have been there, but those are Monday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern, and you guessed it, we dance on Periscope. Because life is too short not to, and it's Monday, and we need to get things started right. Oh, thank you, Wendy's hat. To answer the question about how much Provence I used, I actually, because it was my first time, I think I ended up doing 4 coats on the top of the table, which is excessive. Did not need to do 4 coats. I thought I saw a streak, got a little obsessive. So I have about 2/3 left from that little table, but I have half left from the table and 6 chairs. So that just goes to show how far this can go. I was probably a little heavy-handed with it the first time, and you can water it down. You can, actually, people have thickened it too, so if you like a really thick, textured, kind of slapdash look, you can actually leave the top off your can. People do that and just let it kind of thicken up, or you can dilute it with water. You can mix the paints, so you could, I actually considered adding some graphite to this Paris gray because it's very light and bright, but then ultimately I was like, I don't want to mix it and then I'm on my 6th chair and I've run out and I can't recreate it. So I ended up not doing that, but it really is quite the magical paint, as you all have agreed and shared, and I'm excited. I hope some of you, tell me now, are some of you who were at our stage 2 or 3, have some of you gotten to the point where you're like, I'm ready to give it a try. I'm ready to enter stage 4, stage 5, and join this fandom of Annie Sloan. Can I get the name of who did the scope on painting tile? I forgot already. Yes, was that Rhonda? Tell us again who did it and tell us where to find it. And if you want to watch the replay, I am going to repurposed this scope today on YouTube, and my YouTube channel is The Thinking Closet, but I'm also going to put that video along with my 2 beginner's guides to using chalk paint, and those can be found. I just created a new post today where you can find both of them, thinkingcloset.com/chalk paint. And then you can visit my blog, get lost in the many tutorials. I'm actually coming up on my 3rd year of blogging this weekend, which blows my mind. But I've absolutely loved the community I found in both Blogland and Periscope land. So thank you all for being here with me. Where did you get the paint? I actually got it directly from Annie Sloan because they sponsored my post, but I did end up getting the soft wax from my local stockist. So just go to the Unfolded website, which, oh, thank you, the Unfolded website, and go to the tab that says Find a Stockist, and you can search in your area and see who carries it. You might be surprised. They're usually carried in like home decor stores or resale shops, and they even ship. So don't be discouraged if you can't find one near you where you can drive there. Oh, thanks, Jill. I'm so glad you found me too. So I hope this has been helpful. Any final questions? I know you've spent an hour with me, and I am just so humbled by that. Just now getting a blog set up, nervous about building a fan base. You know what? Slow and steady. Just keep being your encouraging self. The people will come. It was a slow build, but worth it. Worth the journey. Bearwood Furniture Stores carry it too. Great. Yeah, so keep an eye out. Again, look at their directory online to see where you can find it. And they do have, you can check online to see their paint colors. I kind of like that it's very limited. You're not overwhelmed by all the choices, because Annie Sloan mixed her colors based on French furniture. I think it was like 18th and 20th century French furniture. So there's a limited selection, and they're all beautiful. So, thank you, friends. I appreciate all of Robin, everyone, Rhonda, who jumped in to field questions and support each other. This really is such a supportive community. I'm really grateful to have found you all. And I hope some of you join me on Monday night for the dance party. You'll see a whole different side of me. We're actually doing Motown this upcoming Monday. So thank you, friends. Robin loves to mix the colors and make her own. Man, you are just killing it. I love that you've practically done your whole house. I'll have to go find you on Instagram. Okay, I hope everyone has a great rest of their Wednesday. Thank you for being here with me. Again, I'm Lauren from thinkingcloset.com, and this has been fabulous. Sending hearts back at you guys. Bye.